And to help us unpack the legal and political implications of this development, we are now joined by political analyst and legal expert, Attorney Tony Viña. Good morning, Attorney, and welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
All right, so Attorney, let's begin with this issuance of the Manila RTC of a precautionary whole departure order against Senator Jinggoy Estrada and 4 others. Walk us through, Attorney, ano po ba talaga ang precautionary whole departure order? How is that different from a typical HDO? And why would the court release one at this stage even while it's still under preliminary investigation?
There's a historical reason for this. If you recall, amazing, more than almost 20 years ago now, in 2010, I think, 15 years ago, President Doria Macapagal Arroyo, former President Doria Macapagal Arroyo, was trying to leave for I think for Europe, if I'm not mistaken, or for the United States, for medical reasons. And because there were cases that were being ready to file against her, then Secretary De Lima of the Department of Justice stopped her from traveling at the airport. She was already in the airport. Even when there was a temporary restraining order by the Supreme Court for her not to do that. So indeed, they stopped her, and then a few days later, cases were filed against her. So then she could no longer travel. But the Supreme Court ruled that to be illegal and unconstitutional against Secretary De Lima's order. Because there was no law that allowed Secretary De Lima to do that. So it's in the context that after that case, a law was passed allowing for precautionary whole departure orders. Meaning to say that even if no case has been filed against you, but there is already a process going on in the Department of Justice, in this case, a preliminary investigation already going on, or some kind of process which will lead to a preliminary investigation, because in this case, actually, the preliminary investigation will be done by the Ombudsman, the Office of the Ombudsman. In other words, the case will first be filed in the Office of the Ombudsman, who will then go to the Sandigan Bayan to have a arrest warrant issued, right? Or the whole departure orders to be issued. But since there's no case yet, what the Department of Justice have done here is to ask for a precautionary whole departure orders, which is now allowed under the law. Again, in the time of President Aquino, when they tried to stop Doria Macapagal Arroyo from traveling, the court said that is illegal because there is no law that allows you to stop anyone from traveling. We have a right to travel, by the way. The right to travel is a constitutional right. You cannot stop anyone from traveling unless, and this is what the Constitution says, unless there is a law that allows you to do that. Now there is a law. And so in the case of Senator Estrada and others that might be charged with him, a precautionary whole departure order has been issued.
And by issuing a precautionary whole departure order, Attorney, does that indicate that the court now has strong evidence against the respondents?
No, there is no finding of that sort. There's only a granting of a request by the Department of Justice to stop a person from traveling. The person is not being arrested at all because there's no charges yet. You cannot be arrested if there are no charges filed against you. So there is no finding of strong evidence at all. It's simply a finding that most likely soon charges will be filed against you.
But the DOJ did say, attorney, that the court found probable cause to believe that the respondents might flee. In this case, at this stage, attorney, how does the court determine if an individual is considered a flight risk? What factors do they usually consider?
Well, they would consider travel history of the person, the means of a person, right? But take note that the probable cause is about flight. It's not about the case. It's not about evidence about the case. But yes, they will look at mainly ability of a person. I would say that Senator Estrada might even be able to contest that because he has quite a big history of travel. Even when he was charged under the during the Napoles scandal, and he was released later on bail, he was still traveling quite a lot, and the court gave him permission to do that. So, I would surmise that he would be able to file a motion for recon and try to appeal this, right? But maybe by the time he does that, a case would have already been filed, because what we know is that soon cases will be filed.
So this is more of a precautionary measure from the court, and here they consider, as you mentioned, attorney, travel history, maybe even resources and the power of an individual. And we're talking about here a sitting senator in Senator Jinggoy Estrada. But there's also a question, attorney, would legislative immunity apply in situations like this?
Of course not. Legislative immunity applies only to arrest when the session is going on, and only for crimes that are punishable by arresto mayor. This is plunder, right? This is non-bailable crime, or this graft and corruption of the level that is non-bailable. But as I said, this is not even an arrest, so yes, it can be issued because there is no arrest yet. And if it's an arrest, it will be for crimes way beyond arresto mayor. So, which is a very minor crime. So yes, Senator Estrada will be arrested once the proper charges are filed. There's no immunity for that.
Okay, let's talk about former DPWH Secretary Manny Bonoan. He previously traveled and was allowed to even go to the United States for his wife's medical procedure. And I think there was a soundbite recently where he said that he might be traveling soon again. Can he still ask permission from the court to travel under humanitarian considerations, if ever, attorney?
He will try to, I suppose, right? But there is already this precautionary whole departure order. So I suspect that will no longer be allowed. Because the thing is, these crimes are not bailable, right? Actually, when you are charged with a crime that is bailable and you get bail, you can travel with the permission of the court.
Okay, so that's the legal aspect of this whole departure or this precautionary whole departure order. But I wanted to take a step back also, attorney. What's your overall assessment of how the flood control investigations are unfolding so far?
I think it's too slow, quite honestly. It's already more than 6 months since President Marcos first started exposing this. I think people are disappointed. No big fish, really. I wouldn't even consider Senator Estrada and Senator Revilla as big fish, or even Senator Villanueva. They're recidivists, right? They were also charged during the time of the Napoles scandal and got away with it. So it's good that they will be charged if there's evidence against them. I think the truly big fish are Senator Escudero, Speaker Martin Romualdez. Saldico is not a big fish at all. And people in Malacanang, the Assistant Persamin, Undersecretary Olivar of the DepEd, contractors close to Malacanang, those are the truly big fish. I think people will be disappointed with what we have so far.
Yes, and I mean, there were expectations that arrests would take place as early as December, but instead, the ombudsman and the prosecutors appear to be taking a more deliberate approach, attorney. Would you say this is a sign of them being cautious and a sign of diligence, or do you think this will eventually risk losing the confidence of the public?
Well, they've already lost the confidence of the public, to be honest. That's why President Marcos' ratings are very bad, because public has no confidence because of the extent of the corruption under the administration that has been allowed under the administration. He doesn't get any credit for exposing the corruption which happened under his watch, right? So let's be clear about that. With respect to the Department of Justice and of course the Ombudsman, I would give some deference to them because we also don't want cases filed for its own sake, right? That are then dismissed very quickly, or where we do not get guilty verdicts. As we did with the Napoles scam. The Napoles scam did not catch big fish; they all got away scot-free. That's why the people are very disappointed because this is like the Napoles scam all over again.
And we time and again, we always hear our officials saying they will go wherever the evidence leads. But attorney, do you think that there is enough political will to pursue the big fish that you were talking about earlier?
I don't think so. It's clearly not there on the part of the president because these are his allies. These are people close to him, contractors close to him that are, not being pursued. At the same time, hope springs eternal. On February 25, groups will be coming to EDSA, different groups diverging but also uniting in EDSA. I will be with the movement against tyranny in EDSA because corruption, reached a crescendo during the time of Marcos Sr., has reached another crescendo in the time of Marcos Jr. So that pressure is good because it's the people, right? It's the people that are angry about this that is resulting in these actions that are going on. But so far, it's not enough what we're seeing. And the people see that again. I tell you, the people see that. The people are disappointed. The people are blaming the Marcos administration for that.
Well, with that said, attorney, how would you describe the political climate right now and the political outlook for this year, 2026? And how are all of these narratives shaping or aligning as we move closer to 2028?
The political climate is what you would call complicated, right? I mean, with the falling trust ratings and performance ratings of President Marcos, VP Sara being impeached, which I think is quite certain. It's just a political decision to be made, and here Marcos actually needs to show some spine. But conviction by the Senate is far from certain. Without opposition figures that are rising, independent of Marcos in particular. I think the opposition uniting with Marcos will be a tragedy because that's a sure ticket to lose the elections. So I suppose Marcos will have his own candidate. People say that will be John Vic Remulla. So it's not clear what will happen. I hope there will be an anti-dynasty bill that will be passed that will prohibit Marcoses and Dutertes from running in the 2028 elections. At least they have to make a choice that only one of them can run in 2028. That's very important. I wish charter change will be done so we can fix many of our systemic problems. We are facing with very grave, serious, systemic, political problems and economic problems as well, right? But if not, we will close to 2028, and it looks like if nothing big happens, it looks like we will have another Duterte presidency. That complicates things. Even as the father, by that time, would have been convicted. I would stake that, convicted in the International Criminal Court. So lots of complications. Senator Bato, Senator Bongo probably will be sent to The Hague alongside with former PNA officials and former Secretary of Justice Aguirre quite soon. All of this depends on the spine of the president, whether he can make the tough decisions to make this country a better place and a safer place.
Well, all right. Just as a final question, speaking of the former president, we're now less than a week away from his confirmation of charges hearing before the ICC on February 23. Do you think it will be an uphill battle for the former president's camp and his defense team to stop this whole case from proceeding to trial, given the multitude of evidence that the prosecution has?
Well, they still have one card, the appeal on the jurisdiction of the ICC. I just can't see that succeeding. Legally, there might be a basis for it, but I cannot see that succeeding given that the evidence against it will be such a big slap on justice, on the demand of justice of the victim. So I think that the charges will be confirmed. I think his co-perpetrators, that's the name for Senator Bato and Senator Go and Secretary Aguirre and other will all be arrested. They'll all be sent to The Hague. The evidence are actually whistleblowers. That's mainly the evidence against them. People in their camp in Davao and in Malacanang that have now spilled the beans on them. So I can see that. And he is fit for trial. I mean, it's very interesting the finding that, his memory is lapsed in a convenient way. In other words, when he chooses to, he forgets things, right? But he's very sharp. The president is very sharp, very fit for trial. He's not an enfeebled, weak old man. He's very sharp. He's fit for trial, and so the trial will go on. I think it will go on for 2 or 3 years, and that he will be found guilty, and rightly so, because thousands of Filipinos and poor Filipinos died under his watch, under his order actually, under a common plan that these co-perpetrators planned with him in the war against illegal drugs, which was not done to fight illegal drugs, but actually done basically to benefit drug lords, and for political purposes only, and not really to defeat drugs in the Philippines.
Well, so many things to watch out for on the international and political front, but for now, we're going to have to keep things there, leave things there. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Political analyst and legal expert, Atty. Tony Laviña.
Thank you.